Now comes the question, how does this geocoding stuff work? And so to understand that, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new service. We're going to call it location. And inside of location, we're going to create a file, location.mock.js. And that mock file is going to export a certain amount of information from every single city that we want to get information from. So it looks a little something like this. And all this information can be retrieved from the resources folder. You'll be able to pull it from the pull request. Now, if you see here, we're doing export const locations. So these are the locations that we want to have accessible. And again, the information that is in here strongly mimics what Google would return us so that in the end, we can swap out our API call to work with the Google API. But the information in here is not of the same accuracy as what you would get back from Google, of course. So over here, you can see that for Antwerp, it has a results array. And in that results array, there is a geometry object. And in that geometry object, there is a location with a longitude, latitude, and then there is a viewport object. Now, both of these objects are equally important. This will allow us to find the city, right? The city that we're trying to get the restaurants for. And this, at a later stage, will help us configure our map view in order to render out the location correctly on the map view. Now that we know that these are our results, what we can do is, based on this, we can give it each result a key, right? And the key of the object is the key of the city, the search term, so to speak. So we'll have Toronto, Chicago, San Francisco. And as you can see here, I put a space between San and Francisco in order for us to be able to search for it properly. Now, when we hit Google, obviously, it won't really matter because the search term will go to Google, but we're hiding the results inside of the object key. Okay, so now we can go ahead and create our location.service.js. And this location.service.js, what it's going to do is similar to what the restaurant service did, but it's going to work a bit different. So first of all, we're going to get camelize. We're going to say export const location request. And this is going to be a function that does something for us. And then we're going to do export const location transform. And this is going to transform the request for us. Right? I need braces here. Curly braces? Curly braces, that's what they're called. Oh, I've been struggling to figure out that word for so long. In any case, the other thing we need is our mock location. So we'll import locations from locations.mock. And this will allow us to get our mock locations. Now, what we need to do is, again, we need to return a promise. So return new promise, and then it gets a resolve and a reject function. And this will allow us to basically mimic as if we were talking to an API. So what we'll do is we'll say location mock is equal to locations. And well, of course, what are we trying to find? We're trying to find a search term. That's what we're looking for, right? Whether it be Antwerp, Brussels, or whatever else, Toronto, Chicago. So we'll do locations search term. And then we'll say if this doesn't have a value, we're going to reject with saying not found. And then if it does have a value, we're going to resolve with that value location mock. Okay, so knowing that, now what we can do is we can utilize this information to figure out, hey, what do we need off of this object? So for instance, if we were looking at San Francisco, well, off of the geometry object, we're going to need location, latitude, and longitude. So how do we go about that? Well, in our location transform, we're going to get the result, and that result is going to be equal to the entirety of this object, the inner object, right? The results. So how do we go about that? First of all, we need to figure out how to get geometry location off of result. So we're going to say const location is equal to result dot results, and we're going to say 0 because, again, it's an array, but it only has one value in here, and we're always going to pluck the first value anyways. So we're going to say result.results 0. And then with that, we can console.log location, and that basically would give us the following. If we were to log it out, it would give us this object. So now we know that we need geometry and then location. So we can say, well, if I need geometry off of this, so if we take geometry off of this and then we make sure to default it to an object, what we can do here is we can say get lat and get lang off of geometry.location. So this becomes like a very nested procedure. Now we have to say, okay, const latitude longitude is equal to geometry dot location. And then what we need to do is we need to return that lat and lang, and that's going to give us the ability to have the lat lang of what we're trying to get here. Okay, so now that we have both of these, well, there's one more thing we need to do, right? And basically we need to camelize the results. So let's go ahead and wrap result.results inside of camelize, and then we'll pluck 0 off of it. And what that will do is basically, like, for instance, if there was any information in here that was poorly formatted, which it doesn't seem to have, all of the information in here seems to be completely legit and it shouldn't have to do anything, it would fix it up. But just in case maybe the API would add something later on by chance that wasn't camel case, we still want to wrap it with camelize just to make sure that everything comes back. So we can say const formatted response is equal to camelize results. Let's do it like this, and then we can do formatted response and then dot results, and then that way. Okay, so this is looking all right. Now that we have this, now in the next video, we need to look at how we're going to integrate this into the holistic infrastructure, right? We don't have a context for this yet. So let's look at that in the next video.